First, I just want to introduce myself, and then I'm going to go through just the agenda for the evening, and then I'll get into it. It did say on the notice that this was not a presentation, which in fact it's really not. It's just sort of an introduction, particularly for those who weren't here at the library meeting. And just briefly, it's just a brief introduction. So my name is Will Hayes, and the purpose of this meeting is twofold. One is I'm hoping that everyone will walk out of here understanding what this community summit is about, how it works, what it will do, that kind of thing. And then also, I'm hoping at the end, a show of hands, just to see are people inclined to take this on. Is it interesting enough to move forward as a community? Just to get a sense of that. And then after that, I'll just open, this is fairly brief, and then I'll just open it up to questions or comments, concerns, please share them. That's what the meeting is supposed to be about. What it's not about is sharing specific ideas. And I apologize if that was not clear. But this is more about the process and learning about the process. And there will be other opportunities to talk about ideas and bring them up. But in order to do that well, that has to be within the context of a process that's organized, I think, rather than just do a free-form here. But in terms of the comments on this, questions about it, lay it on me, whatever you want. Okay, so I've had a lot of conversations since the last meeting with different people, and got a fairly good amount of information, and so a lot of this is drawn from that information and some conclusions I came to from it. Okay. So it's my impression that this is a historic moment for the city of Port Clinton. And what I mean by that, well, there's a couple things, but first of all, show of hands, how many people are familiar with Bob Putnam and his book or aware of that? Okay. All right. So would you say this is a bad thing for Port Clinton or a good thing? The book. Okay, so I'll just tell you, talking with people, I've heard both. Maybe it's a bad thing, maybe it's a good thing, depends on who you talk to. I don't know whether it's good or bad, but I do know that what it's done is across this country as a result of that book, Port Clinton is the poster child for communities that are hurting. Like it or not, that is what we are in many people's minds. So, poster child for communities in pain. These communities are spread out all across the country, and we share some of these issues. I don't have to read them. Okay, so economic distress, the end of the age of manufacturing, which is a global phenomenon for us, with a big impact on us. The end of the era of extraction, what I mean by that is mining, coal is eventually going to go away. Lumber, timber, the old type of timber cutting is gone. Much of the commercial fishing is gone. And this is affecting a lot of communities that are dependent on that. There's an aging population, a lot of young people are leaving when they get out of school, and maybe coming back later, maybe not. And then, of course, hopefully I think we're all familiar that there's some internal discord in the community, and other communities share this very same thing. So this is my poster child for community in pain. So I don't know if Bob's book is good or bad, but I do think it's a great opportunity, and I think that the fact that he published this is actually a unique opportunity for us as a community, one that very, very few cities get. And that is, we have an opportunity to show people that we are not that. We may be that in some ways, and we may have been in the past, but we don't always have to be. So to me, it's an opportunity to work on turning it around and to show people all across the country will notice that we can turn it around, we can show them we can work together, we can show them we can make things better, we can show them we can revitalize the city and the community. And people around the country, in my opinion, some years down the road, will look at Port Clinton and they'll be like, wow, that's very cool, what they've done, how did they do that? And they'll be coming here to look, just like I've gone to little towns to see what they've done. I think we can be one of those towns. So there's two things that I think we need to make that happen, to revitalize the town. Again, this is from conversations also with people that we can turn the poster right side up. Okay, the first thing represented by the circle is we need a comprehensive, community-wide, community-generated, integrated vision and plan. And on top of that, this outer circle represents an environment, community environment that is conducive to creativity and collaborative effort. Because without that, I think it's going to be pretty hard to pull it together. So those are the two things I think we need that I'm going to know. And there is this one little problem that there's a wedge in the middle of going right down. It's like a stage in the heart of our community. And this wedge has two parts to it. One side is the mistrust, frustration, anger, animosity between community members and other community members. And the other half of it is mistrust and anger between the community members and the city government. I think there's two things that are hammering this wedge deeper and deeper. On one side is pro-development on the waterfront, and on the other side is anti-development on the waterfront. And these two things clash, these groups clash, and it forces that wedge in there. So what I'm saying is that the waterfront has become this hammer that's dividing the community. So my first question is, does that ring true? Am I on the right track saying that, or am I missing something there? Yeah, okay, so I guess I got that. Okay, that's good. All right. So it would be helpful to pull the wedge out. In order to do that, pull the hammer out, off, put it back in the toolbox. But I'm not saying I know how to do that. That's not, I don't know. It's complicated and difficult, I'm sure. But I do know that a certain type of process can help us heal this. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect. I think it can be a good start. I don't think this wedge has to be pulled out before we get started. I think as we go on, it will come out of its own accord. So my question is, when you look at this drawing, and these two hammers represents the waterfront, particularly Waterworks Park, I want to ask, do you think that the waterfront is the source of our city's pain and suffering? Is there anyone that thinks it is the source? Let's put that.
I didn't hear you.
Sorry. Would you say, I'm trying to get a sense of whether people think that the waterfront issues, the conflict over the waterfront, is the source of the community's suffering. I'm not talking about emotional pain, I'm talking about the difficulties that we're having in general. Would you say that this is significant, plays a significant role?
Yes. Well, that's some of it. A big part.
What else is, tell me more, Paul. Like, do you have something else in mind?
Well, I haven't thought on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you think about it, yell out.
But it's not the whole story. It's not the whole story. It's an ingrained, deep-seated feeling in Port Clinton. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I think this divergence and inability to cooperate goes back way beyond the waterfront. I mean, I was on city council in the 60s, and we experienced the same thing. The big deal then was fluoride, and city council got sued, we got dragged into court, and the community was split. So I think this is a community in search of an issue to divide itself. If we went to waterfront, it'd be something else.
Interesting. Well, that's kind of where I'm coming from. That's the conclusion I've drawn. There's a lot of attention on the waterfront, and it is a big issue. It's an iconic location. It's a waterfront town. It means a lot, but it's only one part of the whole. It's a big part, it's a significant part, but there's a lot else going on, other things going on. It's my impression that the source of our problems, whatever you want to call them, is not the waterfront. The source is actually spread out across many areas. It has to do with the roads, the schools, the job situation, the community interaction. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff, and it's not just in the community. It's spread out outside of the community. So there's things we have no control over, like the economy. That affects us severely. And that's just as much a part of what we need to look at as what's happening on Main Street. So because, what I'm saying is because I don't think the problem is the waterfront, I don't think we're going to find a solution there, no matter what we do. I'm not saying it's not part of it. It is part of the solution. But the solution lies in every corner of the community. It's in the schools, it's in the government, it's in the hospital, it's in the business community, it's in the organizations, whatever. And if we're going to move forward in a really good way, I think we need to look at all of these things. And we need to look for answers and information from across the community. You know, ideas are going to be in old people, young people, are going to be in newcomers, they're going to be in outsiders, they're going to be in people who were born here and been here for generations. And so the thing that I think will help do that is this appreciative inquiry summit process. This particular process, I'm not going to go into detail, is designed to build relationship, to get through issues, to create a collaborative environment, and create an environment. So my feeling is if we move forward with this process, right from today, it will gradually help us because we'll have to get together. And it's very carefully controlled, so it's focused on certain things, and it's not a great forum, and I do not think it will be a forum that will encourage dissension and dialogue that's difficult and painful. Not to say there won't be some of that, but there will. But it's designed to avoid that as much as possible. So, I think, anyway, I think that's it. I just think that it will help us not only create a vision so there will be concrete benefits to it, but also it can help us rebuild the community. So, revitalize the city, rebuild the community altogether. So, at this point, I just want to say that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I have received lots of questions, like, oh, sorry.
Before you conclude, I got the impression there are people here that weren't at the last meeting. Could you just briefly explain what AI is and where it came from so people have a feeling that it is a legitimate...
You don't want to do that for me? No,
what?
Okay, yeah, okay. The process is called Appreciative Inquiry. Appreciative Inquiry Summit is the culmination of a long process. The summit looks like one room with 100 or 200 members of the community in it at one time, usually for several days. A lot of times it takes 4 full days. In that 4 full days, the community comes together at one time in one place, and they determine a vision and some planning all at once. So at the end of that 4 days, you go out of there with a vision and a plan that's community-wide and community-generated. Particularly focused on looking on, not on problems, doesn't ignore problems, but the focus is very much on things that work already or have worked in the past. So we look at the past, see what's worked, what we like, what we love about town, what we want to see more of in the future. Point being that rather than just a vision that comes out of our imagination, it's grounded in reality. Things that we know that are proven to work, not just in our town, but in others like ours. Is that sufficient, or is there more?
The only issue, the only question that I had was my left brain was not satisfied by that.
Okay.
Would
That
you-
was too wishy.
No, it was perfect, but I just very briefly tell them where it came from.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Who, okay.
Right, got it. Thanks for reminding me. Okay. It was developed in the mid-'80s at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio by 2 students, graduate students. They were business management, organization development students, and their first client, as I recall, was the Cleveland Clinic. So this was way back before the Cleveland Clinic exploded. And they were taken in by the Cleveland Clinic, and the first thing they did was they interviewed people about what's wrong with the Cleveland Clinic, like how can we fix the clinic to make it better. And at some point they realized that all they were doing was stirring up all this really negative, like anger and frustration. So I don't know, oh yes, David's wife is an artist, and she suggested that they go at it from an art appreciation point of view, meaning like what is beautiful about it. That came from her, and he's like, oh, okay, we'll try that. So they went back to the clinic, and they started asking people, what do you like about the clinic? What works in the clinic? Why do you work here? If it's so bad, you must work here for a reason. And the whole attitude was just like a 180-degree shift. And you all know what the clinic is today. It's very successful. So it started in sort of a corporate environment, and then they started working with communities. So they've worked with communities all over the world. They worked with huge corporations, Fortune 500 corporations, with thousands and thousands of employees they've done this with. And they've done virtual summits around the world. So there was a religious organization. People were spread out all around the world. This is interfaith. And they got together, video conferencing and whatnot, and they created a vision that way. Is that helpful? Okay. So, as I was saying, I've received tons of questions by email. I could not answer them all. I tried, but it just got overwhelming. So, at this moment, if anyone has a question or a thought or a comment or concern about, or just need clarification about what I'm talking about, this would be a great time. Just throw it out there, and I'll do my best to respond to that. Right.
You know, I do think that looking at the area in general, not the industrial development, not construction development, now we're going to a lot of communities that are pretty found themselves, and they are making a difference. They are investing in the arts for 50 years. A lot of these communities in that doing short work in Columbus, Gordon Square, going on, Tremont, and all these other places, they were like, they were in fact worse. What the arts have done is turn those communities around. They got to be so successful that the arts can't live on Main Street or on the side streets. But what's happened? Name restaurants, boutiques, things that you normally see in a town are growing and are very acceptable. That's what the people want. The lots are all full. It's like a community. That's what's happening.
So you think we can do that here? You're thinking we can do that here? So for those who didn't hear, let me just repeat, and you tell me if I got what you're saying, basically. So, are there people in the back who did not hear that question? Okay, here's my sense of what I'm saying is, there are communities that were in very bad shape. Tremont, Gordon Square, you mentioned, there's many, not just in Ohio, but all over the place. And they've turned themselves around. And one of the things that has helped them turn themselves around is incorporating art into the community. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. So this is one of the cool things about the Appreciative Inquiry process is it draws out ideas like that. And then we look at all the different ideas. And you see it's coming from a thing that works and has been proven to work.
And this area is rich in talent.
Yeah.
There's so many great artists here, musicians, I mean, it's great.
So there's a lot to draw on. So just a second, Paul. Yes, Paul.
This is an observation, if you will, based on some rumblings that I've already heard. This should not be viewed as someone's political platform or a political process. If we do that, we do us all a disservice. I see this as an intellectual inquiry. I see a big tent under which everyone who has an interest in the future of this town will gather. If you've got an axe to grind, you leave the axe outside the tent. If you've got a program or vision that you're passionate about, bring that in and we'll talk about it. But I just don't think we should see this as somebody's political platform or process. If we do, it'll die right now and we won't get any.
Absolutely. I'd like to comment on that. Just to be clear, this is not a political process. I'm not affiliated with any politics in this situation at all. And I don't work, these are some of the questions that seem appropriate, and I'll get a little bit closer to your point in a minute. I don't work for anyone. No one hired me. I'm not a puppet. There are no strings attached here. I have motivations. I'll just briefly, people have been asking me, well, what's in it for you? Why are you doing it? Are you getting paid? I'm not getting paid. I'm doing it for a couple of reasons. One is because I want to contribute to the community. Two is because I want to contribute to the country. I've been in a lot of towns in the country. There's a lot of urban towns. If we can do great things here, and because of the publicity that Bob Butler's book gave us, we can provide some kind of model that people will actually see. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff happening, like you were saying, Tremont, but not that much publicity about the good stuff. There's a lot of publicity about the bad stuff. If we can turn around, because of Bob's book, we can contribute to the revitalization of the country as a whole, and it's just my personal feeling that the country could use a lot of that, and it has a lot of the issues. What we're dealing with here is happening on a grand scale. Yes, I see this as it's an inquiry. There will be a huge shed outside the door where there will be acts, like places to hang your axe, you put your name on it, you'll check, ticket, and whatnot, and it'll probably have to be a very big building. Does that speak to you? Is that what you were getting at? Did I address what you were saying in general?
Well, yeah, if anyone has a particular axe to grind or grudge to air, just leave that outside.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you're passionate about some particular issue or you have a vision for Port Clinton that you're passionate about,
Yeah.
bring that in.
Yes.
Share it with everyone.
Absolutely. I agree. Yes.
Yes, Dennis Lamb. Well, I've been in Port Clinton, my wife and I have lived in Port Clinton for a good number of years, and this AI summit of Port Clinton, I said Port Clinton, I've got a lot of friends in Port Clinton. To me, Port Clinton is the townships that surround Port Clinton. Catawba Township, Forties Township, Erie Township, Bay Township. Are you looking to build a larger circle as opposed to a small, intimate circle?
Okay, I think I understand your question. I'll repeat it in so many words and you can tell me, you can just shake your head. Okay, the question has to do with basically, who are we talking about getting involved in this process? Who's going to be giving these ideas? Who's going to be in that room? Is that correct? Is it going to be just the people that live within the city limits? Is it going to be the school district? Are we talking about the state of Ohio? Or are we talking about the continent, North America? Is that accurate? So you're looking for a definition, like, of what the boundary is? Who's in it, who's out? Is that correct?
Who all can we include to help us bring about a better place to live and enjoy?
Okay, this is going to be a slightly long answer because it's quite complicated. But let me bear with me, okay? Because this has come up many times in the past month. People's question is, what are you talking about? Questions that have come up that I think are related to this is, you talked at the library about including the whole system, like looking at all parts of the system. What are you talking about? What whole are you talking about? What does that mean? What do you mean when you use the phrase the whole system? And the specific question has to do with stakeholders. Who is a stakeholder? And are you asking us to let people in Cleveland decide what's going to happen in our hometown? That's related to your question. First of all, I'll say I don't have a specific answer because it's not my decision who's involved. I have suggestions, and I'll talk about that in a minute. One of the first things, if we go ahead with this process, one of the first things that we're going to do is form a planning committee, and they're going to look at that very question. It's number one on the list, and I think I have it written down here. I'll show you in it. But briefly, when I'm talking about the whole, I will try not to go on and on about this. But this is the crux of the matter right here. When I talk about the whole, I'm talking about every single thing, the entire world. That sounds absurd and everything, but we are connected. Obviously, the manufacturing dwindled away, not because of anything we did, but because of things that happened on the other side of the globe. So we need to consider that. We need to think about that. We're not going to go there and interview someone in India, but we need to keep that in mind. So on a philosophical level, the stakeholders, that's everything. And I'm not just talking about people, I'm talking about the environment as well. So the stakeholder is the lake, the river. As we all know, if we don't keep the river healthy and the lake healthy, it's going to affect us. So I consider that all stakeholder. To get more specific, I've heard things like the school district would be a good starting point, but because we rely to some degree on tourists, personally I don't see how we could create an environment that tourists would like to come to without asking tourists to be involved in the process. They're not going to be voting, obviously, but we're asking them for ideas and opinions. So those people could come from all over the place, Fort Wayne, Columbus, Cleveland, wherever. And I'm saying actually invite people. Bring their families here every year. You know, maybe they're going ice fishing, maybe they're going through here to islands. I don't know. Bring them in here and ask them. Does that help clarify that?
I think so.
Okay.
Tourism isn't an issue, and I think it's very important to our community, but I think that since I've been here, part of that wedge is tourism. And a lot of people have voiced their opinions that they don't want tourism.
Okay, so the comment is that tourism is part of this wedge. Some people want to encourage tourism and some do not. So when I say the wedge is the waterfront, that's definitely one part of it, and I'm aware that there's a lot to the wedge. There's this tourism pro-con, there's Port Clinton, Catawba, there's all sorts of issues, many. There's class issues, like there's wealthy and poor. I mean, we've got a lot going on. All of that would be part of this process, looking at it. The way I see it, just briefly, is, and that this also speaks, I think, to your issue, is there's two things. There's the need for autonomy, and there's the need for connection. So in other words, some part of me wants just the city of Port Clinton to be involved in defining Port Clinton. That's the autonomy. I want my own identity. But part of me wants to connect to the larger region and community. And these are not two things that we have to decide between. These are two things that we have to manage between. Some things are great about being real tight, and some things are not so great about being real tight, and some things are great about being really inclusive, and some things are not so great. And we can go between those two depending on what we need in a moment. Tourism, I think, is a similar thing. We're definitely, there's no way we're going to block out tourism 100% or be overrun by hordes of tourists, I don't think. But somewhere in there, we're going to move between those two poles, I think. That's what this process assumes, I guess. Yes?
I was speaking with Father John Lisner. He asked the pastor at Immaculate Conception Church, said that he's very much interested in participating, but he, like many people, can't come in the evening, you know, and will it be considered to have a daytime meeting to bring them up to date? And also for the elderly that are not going to come out here, there's a lot of value there.
Okay, the question had to do with including people who, for whatever reason, can't participate in a meeting like this. Either they can't make it, they don't have the time, they work 3 jobs, whatever. Sorry?
It's nighttime.
Yes, okay, so the way this process works is there's a variety of opportunities to get involved. There's daytime meetings, nighttime meetings, there's long, full-day meetings, and very short meetings, and also there's an outreach program where we will go, there will be a team of people, just like going door to door, maybe for an election to promote a candidate. There will be people that go door to door and interview people to find out what do you like about Brooklyn, what do you want to see more of, what do you think is a great idea. And that information can be recorded, written out, and brought back into the process. Does that answer your question?
No.
Okay. I did not understand your question.
No, I'm sorry. What I'm doing is expressing an interest in them to have the information that you have shared in these past 3 meetings as part of the planning process. rather than just be a part at the end. They want to have input.
At this point already, is what you're saying. Okay,
Correct.
sorry, I misunderstood what you were getting at. I started, yes, there's a couple ways that I have in mind to do that. I started a blog where a lot of this information will ultimately be posted, and eventually, if we move forward with the process, or closer to it, there will be a website where you can go on here and get all this basically same information without having to listen to me tell it to you. Does that respond to your question more? Am I getting closer?
Yes, no, that does.
Yeah, okay, right.
Did you say that you have the blog or you're going to start?
I just started the blog. There's only a few entries thus far, and those entries are primarily responses to questions that people have sent me by email. And I have a long list of those questions, and eventually I'll be answering all of them and posting them on the blog. And the blog is Port Clinton Community Summit.wordpress.com, but you can get that from me anytime.
Well, obviously, you're not going to do all this yourself. Have you begun to put together a team?
The answer is, well, the comment is you're not going to do this yourself. Is there a team? I want to be really clear, this is not my project. This is just my idea, and I am the person pushing the project forward, and some is to a large degree facilitating the project, because I've been through this certificate training program at CASE, so I'm familiar with the process. That's my role. My role is basically a facilitator. I'm not deciding outcomes. I'm making very few, if any, big decisions. Just planning decisions of any significance will be a team. There is no team yet. But that will be the first thing that I do is form a team, maybe 8, 10 people, I don't know. And then the decisions will be created in that group. Just to make it clear again, if I didn't, this is not my thing. This is a community thing. It can't be my thing. It's either got to be the community that goes forward, or it's not going to happen. I can't do it, obviously, myself. These meetings are really just to expose people to the idea and see if it's something of value. I think it is, but I'm just one person. So,
one comment. How I just interpreted what you said. If there was no interest in the audience, that pretty much kills the project. The only way the project moves forward is if the audience says, hey, this sounds exciting and interesting, I'd like to do more.
that's a question.
Well,
Yeah.
That's how I interpret what you said.
I'm not sure of the answer. At the last meeting, probably 90% of people said go forward. Yeah, I'll be curious to hear what people in this room think about it. And if they don't want to go forward, I'd be very curious to hear what is it that doesn't work for them. That doesn't mean it's the end of the process. Maybe there's some learning there that I need to know, either in the way I'm presenting or in the actual process itself. How it goes forward, like the decision making about whether we're going to go forward, I'm not 100% sure how to do that, to tell you the truth.
My question would be, have you had an opportunity to sit down with either the city council and or the mayor and had that dialogue with them, and what's their responses so far?
I have, yes, in answer to your question, I have spoken to council members, and I was at a meeting where I gave a short presentation last night, and at which the mayor was there, so he is familiar with this. I can only give you my impression about. My impression was the response was generally positive. I haven't heard from any council member or the mayor any outright rejection or strong objection that I'm picking up. Does that answer your question?
I guess my question would be,
Danny,
my question would be, after whatever the next step is, so people don't feel like they're wasting their time, or we go through this whole visioning process for a year, what guarantees or which way do we have to work out with whether it's the administration or the council, or whichever way it works everybody together, what guarantees that the vision of Port Clinton, what we're going to be, what we're going to be when we grow up, what says that this is where it's coming from, opposed to Ford or whoever else?
You mean-
When the next step happens, what assurances do people have says if they do come here and input here, the process of the summit is what we're moving forward with, for Portland's vision, opposed to some other entity coming and saying, no, we can't do it, or no, wait for it to finally come to head somewhere, and then they say, no, this was just a waste of time. People don't want to waste their time, so I would assume what assurances are there going to be? Has that been discussed among council members?
Something of that nature has been brought up. I think how do we decide as a community whether as a community we're committed to this process? I don't have a specific answer for you yet, but it's a vital question to answer. For anyone who didn't hear, the question is, people don't want to waste their time doing a visioning process. Correct me if I'm wrong. If there's other people doing basically visioning and planning processes,
yeah, because it's
that
all
are
been done
different.
before, maybe on a smaller scale, it's all been done before.
Yeah.
But this is a larger community
Yeah.
scale. Obviously, everybody in this room would have to take it upon themselves to bring 5 more people to the next process or to the next step, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
But in the end, if you bring those 5 people and they're saying, hey, this isn't a waste of time, this is where it's coming from, they don't want to look like a joke in a year and say, well, remember when you said this is where it's coming from? It's not anymore. So I guess the assurances for the step, this is where it's going to come from as a community, because we are trying to bring the community together for
Right.
one voice.
Okay, let me just speak a little bit, and hopefully I'll hit on what you're saying. There are a lot of planning organizations working on some kind of vision, and they're happening for decades. There's plans that are on shelves, and there's plans that are stuffed in the closets, rolled up, and I've heard this specifically. My plan that I worked very hard on is rolled up and stuck in the bottom of a closet. And what about my plan? This is part of what you were saying. You're talking about, I think, previous plans and also current efforts or simultaneous efforts. There's never been a visioning process like this in Portland. I could be wrong, but it's my strong impression that that's the case because there's never been a visioning and planning process that's comprehensive in 2 ways. Comprehensive meaning includes every part of the community, business community, nonprofit organizations, schools, infrastructure, services, government, students, older people, families, individuals, etc. There's never been a process that has incorporated actively every sector, every component. That's important because 20 years ago, nobody did anything like that. People didn't think like that. They didn't think of the whole system and how. Okay, example. What I do as an individual affects my family. What my family does affects my neighborhood. What my neighborhood does affects my community. And what my community does affects the region. They're all connected, and this is fairly recent awareness in our world. So there's nothing like this before, first of all. And therefore there's no plan that's come out of something like that exists. There's individual, more tightly focused plans. And also the difference is there's never been a vision and planning process that actively went into every corner of the community and drew people in. And I'm not talking about actually going to someone's home who can't make it. I'm talking specifically about what their vision is for Portland. So when I think of this process, which is going to take a number of months, most communities take a year to do it. I'm not saying we will, but that's the norm. There will be hundreds, if not thousands, more likely thousands of people's input incorporated into this process. I'm pretty sure that's never been done. One other part of that. Existing people have asked, what about my plan that's sitting on the shelf or that I'm actually working on right now? Those plans exist, and in those plans is a lot of passion and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I think it's silly to throw that out, and it's disrespectful, frankly, I think, to people who have put all this effort into it. So what I see is that it's incorporated. One community in Colorado that I mentioned at the library, the way they dealt with that is they had 90,000 people. They had this huge vision, big plan, and the city council took that information and they laid up every single existing plan they could locate. And they said, does this plan fit into this vision, or can we make it fit? And then if they could adjust it, that's what they did. So it really actually incorporated anything that was consistent with that plan. Does that speak to your question?
I understand yet. But I'm just saying, just like an endorsement for the president or whatever, when is council or its leaders, the administration, or whoever, they're going to stand behind and say, this is the way we want to move forward.
Yes.
So it is worth their time coming out. So if I bring out 15 people, I'm not wasting their time to say, no, something will happen from this, it's just not. When, I guess what I'm looking for is the assurances from your elected officials and stuff like that. When can we expect to get an endorsement and say, this is the way we want to run it? Is it even close to being there yet?
Got it.
An outline they want to say.
Okay, so the question specifically has to do with the endorsement, or would the council, or has the council endorsed this process specifically, correct?
Or what are they looking to endorse?
Yes.
But yes.
I cannot speak for council. I'm not on the council. I can only say what my sense is from the council, and really that's not my place to say. I think that question has to be answered by the council itself. I'm not trying to evade the question, but that would just be my opinion of what I interpreted them telling me, and I just don't know how much value that would be. I'm hopeful.
Is there a step in that process which says that, like I said, so a bunch of people there are people who want to show there, like, but they don't, it's going to go back to, they do not want to waste their time.
Right.
This is something back.
Yes. Let me speak to that a little more specifically. A lot of people have said to me, I don't want to waste my time. What is the point? We're going to go through this process. It's going to take months and a lot of time and effort and a lot of energy. And at the end, we're going to present the city council with this vision, or we're going to create this vision, and the city council is just going to do whatever they want anyway. This is a big concern.
Yes.
I spoke with the council about these kinds of ideas, and I said, in order for this process to be successful, it would be important that the council and the mayor support it, and support it publicly. I mean, just not philosophically, just say, hey, we are into this process, and we support it. I don't know exactly what that means to support it, but publicly state that they're supportive. That's up to them. I have no influence on that matter, but I have brought it up, and they are aware of that issue. And before it moves forward, that would be one of the things we would have to decide, or that would have to be decided. Is that more specifically answering
Yes.
your concern?
Yes.
Yeah, Paul?
Well, assume the council doesn't immediately take a shine in this thing, or Chamber of Commerce does.
Yes.
They would have to be courted or
Yes.
wooed into the process, and that can be done too.
They would maybe wooed.
Yeah.
I'm doing my best. If the council isn't ready to endorse it, which would be totally understandable in my opinion, because it's really not clear yet. First of all, what exactly is this, and how much support is there in this community for it? One of the things, my plan was to have a series of these meetings that are of different forms. Some will be like question and answer, and some will be more interactive, so that people actually get more of an understanding of what this process will be like. It's like in a small scale, like a practice session. And council members will be able to witness that and get more understanding of, is this something I can support or not? So, and to me that's part of wooing. Without selling, I'm not trying to sell something, I'm trying to say this is what's possible, this is what this can do, and if you think it's great, great. Because that's
Yeah, this process was done in Cleveland, you mentioned that.
yes.
Did city government there immediately jump on board?
Yes, because the mayor decreed it. So Mayor Jackson, he just, he's in Cleveland. This was developed in, as I said, a case, whether it's school management. There's tons of stuff going on coming out of the case. And he called up the case and said, let's do this thing. So the government kind of went along with that, yeah. And they had full support of the mayor. And they had a big budget as well. And, yes, Jerry.
I can only speak for myself and the council, but I'm 100% behind it. I want to see this through. It's time we all work together.
Can I repeat what you said?
Not 4 or 5 different sections.
Do people hear what Jerry's saying? No. Can I bring you the mic? Maybe we should pass the mic. Would you be willing to? Yeah.
I can only speak for myself, not the rest of the council members, but I'm 100% behind you, Will. We've got to do something here, and we've got to include everybody. Everybody's got to get it together, because all we're doing is going backwards. So for me, I'll attend every meeting I can, and as I told you in our little sit down, give me a call, email, text, let me know what I can do to help.
Thank you. Like I said, can you hear me in the back? Okay. Like I said before, I've spoken with members of council, and all I've got is positive response. That's my interpretation of it. Okay, there you go.
Hi.
Whoa. Hi.
To Paul, I'll just say that I'm already wooed. I've expressed that to the media room and the well. So on my end, I'm checking what procedure, what type of sanction city council could offer and we can deliver that. But I'll just say I'm already on board with this.
Yeah, let me make it clear that I had the sense of that from you before, but it's not my place to, say that publicly.
So it seems to me that it looks like we have to woo the community, maybe a little more than council. And that this whole process is about wooing the community, and council and all of that maybe we worry about afterwards.
I will say that I agree. Yes. And quite frankly, I'm surprised there aren't more people here. I know that I wouldn't say I'm disappointed, but I'm surprised. But that just makes me wonder why. And I don't know the answer.
We've been let down before.
Yeah.
I mean,
We've been down that.
I think your point's well taken and other people's points are well taken. I think that people are going to join in any process to help the community. We are proactive people, but maybe it's more of a wait and see a little bit.
Yeah. Did you all hear that over there? Okay. Would you say a little bit more?
Which part of it?
Yeah, the whole thing.
I think that more people aren't here, not because they don't care. I think we are really a very lovely, involved, proactive community, and people do care. I think that possibly they want to wait and see because we've gone down this road before. And, people don't like being let down. And I don't think they will be, but I wouldn't take it as any other sign than that.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I understand people are let down, and I'm okay with that. I mean, I understand that. So, yeah, it's going to take a while, and it's going to be a long process of repeating myself over and over, which is fine. Also, in addition to that, people who are hesitant because they've been let down, they're frustrated, mistrustful. There's people that are actually against the process. I don't think it's a big group, but people have actually expressed that to me. I can't say I fully understand why, but it has to do with, I think part of it has to do with understanding who would be involved in the process. Some concern about how broad the stakeholder pool is. Does that make sense? So I think that's one of the issues. Thanks.
This is along the same lines. I just feel strongly that unless the whole community feels ownership of this, whether it's through voting, whether it's through us interviewing people, because otherwise I'm afraid that they will feel left out. Right, they could have come here tonight, but there's all kinds of reasons why people aren't here tonight. So I feel like they have to feel ownership of it, be involved in it.
I'm not sure I have the answer for how to give people what they need to take on it. I don't know the answer because I haven't talked to. Quite frankly, some people will not even talk to me about it. We have refused to talk about it. And the thing that's kind of a bummer about that for me personally is I don't even have the opportunity to share what it's about. Just talking to someone is not asking for a commitment. But in order to understand the process, I have to be able to share it with people. So I don't know exactly what to do.
Well, I guess I wasn't asking a question, but just making a comment that, say for instance, the whole community is able to vote on something, then they feel that they have some ownership to the process.
Are you suggesting voting on whether we do it or not?
Oh, no. Just,
voting on the outcome of the process?
No, just in general. That they don't feel like it's them and us.
Oh, so they don't feel that it's them and us.
Right.
They feel that it's us.
Yes.
Is that what you're getting at?
Yes.
That's a challenge. Let me know when you have that figured out.
I also am disappointed with the turnout.
Can't hear you.
I was just saying that I was also a little bit disappointed with the turnout here because I was hoping that more of the community would get involved. I think that is one of our biggest issues, that we're divided as a community. A lot of people are sitting behind their computers and voicing their opinion or bashing whoever. But really what we need to do is, I want to make more people aware. I look around this whole room and I don't see one person I went to high school with. I'm 37 years old. We should be involved in our community. If we want to thrive, we need to get involved. And we need to get our younger people with children. That's why I'm involved. I don't want my children to leave. I want them to have job opportunities in the area. I left and I came back because I missed this place and it's my home and it's a passion of mine. But I don't understand why a lot of people aren't as passionate, I guess. And I also think this wedge that has come between us is also the fact that we are Port Clinton. We are not just Catawba. We are not just Erie Township. We're not just Bay Township. I have a friend that says, well, this is what I think, but it doesn't matter because I can't vote. Well, it does matter. Your opinion does certainly matter. And you're still Port Clinton. And it's still your town and our town. We need to come together and figure this out. We need to stop fighting against each other. We need to stop listening to social media and get the facts. Period.
Well said. So here's where I'm at, just quite honestly, is I'm one person. There have been people that have helped me get together, and I'm very appreciative to every one of those people that helped me get to this point in time. But I'm kind of at a point where I'm not sure what the next step is, and I can't be the person because I can't go. I don't know as many people as you do. I didn't go to high school here. So I'm kind of thinking that if you want to have it happen, it's going to be person to person, call someone up, write them, or when you see them on the street, say, hey, would you come to the next thing? Does that make sense? And if there's other ways to do it, I don't, there probably are, but I don't know. Yeah, and let me speak to one other thing. There's no reason to believe what I'm saying. A lot of people don't know me in this have an angle here. Other than repeating a zillion times I have no angle, I don't know what to do about that. I have no angle, but I can't, I can't convince people of that. But, so I'm saying that this is something that's happening that's keeping some people away, they just don't know me. So to those folks, I would say, if you don't trust me, it probably has a lot to do with the fact that you don't know me. And if you want to know me, then call me up or write me, let's go out to coffee, let's go have a beer, whatever. Because I don't see any other way of learning, of coming to know me and to trust me, because this process is going to move forward, if it does, way faster than it's going to take for people in the community just naturally to get to know me. It's not, people are not going to trust me in 6 months, even if everything I say comes. Does that make sense? So to those who, this is where my frustration is when I call people, contacting people, and they just said, I'm not going to talk to you. It's frustrating because there's a judgment there. I know it's not really about me because they don't know me. So I'm just saying to those folks, call me up, anybody, anytime. I'm wide open to conversation. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? Yes, sir.
Just a question, do you think the relatively small turnout is because people don't care, or because they weren't aware?
What do you think? I guess I would say.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. What do you all think?
On Facebook.
Yeah, I don't know the answer.
I saw a new article in the paper and I heard about the last meeting, that's why I'm here. But was it in the Beacon?
Yes.
Was it in all the papers?
Yes. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I wouldn't be put off by the low attendance. We're at the very threshold of the process.
Yes.
And as we move forward, we're going to pick people up.
Yes.
And if we don't, then we may want to revise our approach.
Okay. And I want to speak to that too. I mean, I'm not going to say that I wouldn't have liked this thing to be filled. I wasn't expecting that. But the fact is, actually, this idea only came up, a few weeks ago, a month. I can't even remember when it was. When was that? I stood up in the council. I don't know what was that? In December. Early December. So it's been a couple months. And I actually think, well, let me just put it this way. I have a friend who used to be the former mayor of Fresno, California. And I called him up yesterday. And I said, what do you think about what we're doing here? And he asked me a bunch of questions, like how many people are showing up. And I told him 70 approximately people showed up at the library. And he said, well, how long have you been working on this? And I told him, I don't know, a couple weeks. And he's like, whoa. Nothing to worry about there. Don't worry about it. If you get that kind of response initially, there's an interest, there's caring about what happens. Just keep going along. That's what he said. So, you do, yeah.
I don't like a question. You said that we'll decide at some point of waiting if we're going to move forward. Is that 9 months down the line, or is that like a month later?
So is your question, how long will it take to make a decision about moving forward?
Yeah, because I think Jane was saying, when are we going to know if we're going to go forward? How much time do we have to invest before we know, yes, we're going forward, or no, we're not?
Well, okay, the question, if you didn't hear it back, was, I think, how many weeks is it going to take for us to decide whether we're going, until we know whether we're going to go forward? How much effort and energy is going to go into it? My question to people here is, how long would be a reasonable amount of time for that? I don't have specific answers. I mean, what comes to mind, I guess, is like 4 weeks, 8 weeks, not 9 months, believe me, because I'm doing this all volunteer. I don't have 9 months to try to get it done. You know what I mean? So that's, I know it's not going to be 9 months. You know.
I would ask if people here tonight want to move forward with this. And we have enough people are here that are excited. Council supports it, I support it, it's all of us that express that to you. Even people want to move forward and they see this, I see this value.
I'd like to make a motion that we move forward. Do we have a second?
I have a second.
All in favor?
Okay.
Or discussion? All in favor? We have discussion.
Moving forward.
Okay, is that fair to say, is that a yes? Generally speaking? Thank you, Joel. Do you want this? No, I was just spaced out.
I hope I can speak loud enough so everyone can hear me. As a council member, I 100% support this, and the reason I support this is we are elected officials. We look at our citizens, our constituents, to show us guidance, and I think this gives us a really good arrow of what the community wants, what it would like to see done, and I would expect that if somebody went against what the general whole would want, that we would be moved out of our places.
I want to just speak to that, generally speaking. It brings up something a couple of people have asked me. Questions. Isn't that what our government is for? Why are you asking us to do a vision? Isn't that what we elected those people for? In other words, why is it community vision? That's asking a lot. I'm not saying it's exactly what you're saying. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to just rip off that. Because I want to say that question. That question's come up. Why, and what you said just made it pop in my head. Why don't we just let the mayor and the council do this work? Okay. First of all, you know the Gettysburg Address? It says, of the people, by the people, for the people. This is just my opinion, okay? This is not about the process, it's just my opinion. If I just elect an official and I say, why don't you just do the vision? That's for the people. I'm asking you to do it for me. Where's the by the people? To me, it's of the people, by the people, and for the people all together, in my opinion. And this is by the people. And it's not taking power away, it's giving you information. That's my way I see it. People have asked me, well, aren't you circumventing the government? No. Nothing to do with that. So I elect officials not to do everything for me. I still want to participate. That, to me, that's my right and my joy and responsibility as well.
Just make a comment here, if you look at Cleveland, it's roughly 200,000 people, so an initial meeting, if they had the same representation that we have here today, they would have 400 plus people show up at a minimum for the very first or second meeting, just to hear about the process, let alone the engagement. And I hear people saying there's not that many people here. We have 1% of the number of people that live in Fort Clinton. I'm recognizing not everyone here lives in the city proper, but the point being is still, that's a pretty substantial number. Tonight's number, I think, is a little bit higher, so roughly kind of a little bit closer to 80 here than know what's at the library. But since there's, I think it's 1,000 chairs in here, it makes it, or 500 chairs, it makes us look a lot less. 735. So it makes it look like we're not as full because it's such a big room. In the other room, we look swamped because we were all sitting on top of each other. We didn't have enough room, and it was a very small conference room. So there's some play going on.
Have the next meeting in a smaller room.
In like a closet. Well, actually, the room I had reserved was a lobby, which they say can hold about 80 people roughly. But the school decided that they wanted to do it here. So basically, it got moved here. So so thank you. Yeah, I did think about that. And their first summit they had 700 people. So if we had 100 people, that would be a great percentage. So 200 people.
And this is only exploratory. We're not even
That's
at
right.
the summit.
Yeah. Grant,
Yeah, I'd just like to mention too that I think there's more people here today than there was at the library. We are spread out, and it's a good thing, but it just shows that it is growing. And the thing is, the important thing is, we think of ourselves as Port Clinton, but this is a county seat, and we like what's happening in Port Clinton. My wife and I we go to most of these meetings as we can, and there's a lot of others that we've heard on the other side. Marblehead, and also Catawba, and other places that say, why are you wasting your time
excluding them, I think, would make the process, it would be dead in the water.
Well, they're a little discouraged in that. I need to understand that, they would prefer to come to Fort Pleasant shop versus going across the Credit Bridge to Point Season. So they enjoy, they want to see Fort Pleasant Road. They spend a lot of money flying home in Marblehead or Catawba, and they want to spend their money. They want to travel to a town close by. Fort Pleasant had that. A couple of we know very well, and they bought their house 30 years ago, or 35 years ago on top of that, and they watched Fort Pleasant when they were very discouraged about that. And that's why it's a lot of people, and same to be market. We had to travel to Sandusky today to get some supplies that we put in around here. And we like to shop, and we shop as much as we can, and a lot of the people are the same as my wife and I. So it's not just about Fort Pleasant, it's about all of us. And that's about what I have to say. Thank you.
I think the people here tonight have to be the promoters of what's going on. We have to tell our neighbors, we have to tell the people who, at churches that we attend, at clubs that we attend, our friends. We have to spread the news. It's up to us.
I'm going to run through a couple more slides which I think are relevant. These are some of the questions that I've got, and I just want to, I'll speak briefly about it. If we have, are you working for someone else? No. Getting paid? No. What's in it for you? A couple things. One, I want to contribute to the community. Two is, I want to learn and I want to gain experience. I've been a boat builder for many years, and I want to change in helping people who run businesses like I have owned to do them better. And this allows me to learn. And I'm just at the beginning of that learning. So that's a big motivation for me. A motivation that's not for me is seeing something specific happen anywhere in time. I have no agenda there at all. I'm not saying I don't have ideas, but I'm not advocating. Are you asking us to let outsiders who are the stakeholders to existing plans? Yes. Okay, just let me speak to this. This is the way I envision this process. So we're the little one, and we want, but we exist in, you know how these all fit together. We exist inside the county, the region, the state, etc., etc. And only when all those pieces are nested inside one another is the system complete, is the whole there. It's not complete. If you miss it, you know, if you lose one of those dolls, it's just not the same. And each of these smaller systems affects all the larger systems. Just what we do here affects larger entities and vice versa. So, you know, when manufacturing moves to India, we feel it right here. We're intimately connected. We can't be separated. So, yeah, so that's all. Okay. Yes?
Thank you, you answered all my questions. Are you telling us that, I used to tell my agent, you think globally, you work globally. And when you do this, you're laying the groundwork here, is there some type of manual or process, like this is the groundwork, and here's how we do it? We do a market survey with the entire community and get all the input. Is that something we could put in like a meeting, which runs close to all the houses? A lot of people don't go out for a lot of different reasons. It might be sick. Yeah, do we get started? I mean, is this like when they used to put in QS 9000 systems where they're in a pyramid and we started at the top and we go down, and there's a way to start first. Yeah, we start generally and then
design, it's not hierarchical. There's no leader, it's collaboratively led. There's no, it's more like an internet. There's no central node. It's flat organization completely. It doesn't start at the top. Now in the corporate world, the impetus for it, the energy for it often comes from management. But it's not management down. It's management on the floor with everybody else, shoulder to shoulder. And the way it works is, yes, there's probably hundreds of books that have been written about, maybe more than hundreds. There's websites, they're doing this all over the world. There's a zillion articles about it. There's tons of information. It's been done in every kind of community and business as well. The way it works specifically is with the information is gathered through interviewing. One-on-one, face-to-face interview. That's it. So that's where it starts. So when you have a community of 6,000, my goal would be to have several thousand interviews. And I'm talking about with kids, too. As long as they can talk, it's good. I'm open to it. So we're talking about hundreds and hundreds or thousands of interviews. And then that information is gathered and consolidated in smaller groups. And eventually rebroadcast, like it's consolidated and processed, these interviews, which can be hours long, by the way. Not necessarily, but sometimes, like I've done one that was an hour at least. And then that information is consolidated and then broadcast completely, like whether it's internet or whatever, manuals that are printed, wall displays, whatever. The process is 100% transparent. That's the goal. Transparent and curious is the bottom line here. Does that answer your question? To speak to you? Yeah.
I was thinking if there's some way to tell us how to start to get all of
There is the way to start is, yeah, okay, so the way specifically it starts, if we go for it, is there'd be a planning team. The planning team would be trained in the process. It doesn't take months and months and months, but it does take some time. And then there would be a call for volunteer interviewers. And those interviewers would be trained. And I'm only talking like a few hours training. It's not that big a deal. And these would be people who would be volunteering to go out into the community, talk to people they know or people they don't know, and do interviews, record them either written or whatever way they want, and then bring that information back. Does that speak to your question? Yes, well that's a great question. There is a question, there's an interview guide, which has the questions laid out, but each person speaks in their own way, and depending on how it unfolds, there will be other questions that come up, but there's a guide that is specific, yes. And the interview guide and the specific questions, they don't come from me. They're generated by the planning team, and they get information from a broader group to get those questions together.
I want to first of all, Will, commend you for taking the ball on this one. I worked for a steel company in Cleveland that sunk, and union and management sunk it, basically. And then all of a sudden it came out, back up, and we were hiring people. Anyway, long story short, our consultant was very familiar with the Appreciative Inquiry process. And when you talk for a company, in the room, the stakeholders were the union members of management, but then it was the surrounding citizenry. We had the suppliers, we had customers, and it was a totally invigorating process for everybody. And as dysfunctional as that team of management union was as a plant, they were always antagonistic. When you asked them what the vision for the future was, they were identical. So I think this is a system that works, but you can't give it just lip service. You have to, it's a lot of work. We ask questions, the same questions as everybody when we interviewed everybody. And I think we interviewed about 85% of the union workforce. And we thought we wouldn't get anybody, so. And that summit was amazing. And then there were
fun?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of trepidation going into it because you didn't have a, a warm and fuzzy relationship with everybody. But when you broke into the groups, you weren't sitting next to your friend, you were sitting next to a person that had a vested interest in it. And it's still going on. The committees are still reading. And they had items like safety and all kinds of housekeeping, But it's a wide range of things. So I can't say it didn't work. It worked fine. So I'm a supporter of it. And I'm from the top. I don't know how many Port Clinton residents are here right now, but I know that would be an interesting thing to look at.
I've been debating about whether or not I had anything of merit to say, but I decided I wanted to make a couple of comments. We've already talked about the size of the crowd, but in my mind, this is an outstanding crowd. I had looked at the numbers before and sort of counted, and I thought there were 80 plus people, and that was more than I anticipated, and I think it's great. You can go to most any organization in town, even some churches and so on, you won't find 80 people. So to find 80 people who are interested in this process is an excellent start, I think. I had a comment also about the commitment or non-commitment of City Council. I don't think that's something that can be offered at this time. I think, like every other thing that comes before a governmental body, it has to be looked at on its merits. And maybe there will be some suggestions that come out of it that City Council can wholly approve, and maybe there will be some things that they can't even do. Maybe they'll be restricted by law and they'll be unable to do it. But notwithstanding that, I don't think it's just a matter for government. I think it's a matter for schools and hospitals and churches and organizations and individuals. Of course, admittedly, we'd like the approval of City Council, but ultimately the doing of it rests with us. And I'd also like to mention a fact about moving. We talked a little bit about how to get people involved in it. And it seems to me that the very best thing you can do is just start and do it, because when people see that something is happening, that's the way that the news will spread and optimism will spread, and people who want to have a voice in things and don't care to go on the Talk of Port Clinton uncensored and be vilified, then will open up to us. So I think it's time to start, and I would encourage you to go for it. Do it and let the enthusiasm build as people see that we really want to do something positive for our community.
I have just a couple suggestions to look at some of the barriers we identified. Wouldn't it be pretty easy to have childcare available so families could come? That'd be a pretty simple thing. We've got some high school students here, maybe we could have a couple more. And for people who won't drive because they're older, one of us who does drive could offer somebody a ride. And we could bring people to these meetings. So I think that we need to look at what barriers we imagined and imagine them gone.
We can do that. Why not? Yeah, absolutely. We can do it together. If we work on it together, yeah, I don't see one. Chet?
Several minutes ago, I heard a resounding yes, move ahead with the process. What's the next
Thank you for asking. The next steps. I think I actually listed some because I thought that might come up. What are we moving forward? This is not my project. I think I made it clear. Community engagement. We got that. Make a decision to move forward. Cover that. Okay. This is basic steps. We'd have to plan the entire process, obviously. As I said, there's a zillion books about it. It's not like we're starting from scratch. You can take models from other events that have happened. But at first we would form a committee, planning committee. Usually there's a advisory committee that doesn't actually do the planning, but helps guide the decision-making of the planning. So we'd have to have that planning. Define the stakeholders, I think would be essential off the bat. As I said, train interviewers, start these community-wide appreciative interviews, and then there would be a series of pre-summit events, or there could be a series of pre-summit, kind of building up to the final summit. The final summit would be, in my opinion, it would be best to have it several days long. And then, I didn't mention before, but after the summit, one of the things we want to keep is continuity. And so there are after post-summit events spaced out. A lot of businesses do a summit every year after the initial one. Cleveland has done a summit every year since, I think they started in 2009, so they've had 7 summits. The first one had 700. I went to one maybe about 3 years ago. I think there were maybe 400 or 500 showed up to that. So they repeat the process over and over again to keep it going. What do I need from the community? One of the things that I'm getting that's helping me keep going is just little supports here and there, whatever, like, I'm going to call this person for you, or I'll ask this person this, or I'll bring the tripod, the easel, or I'll set up everything from little things to bigger things. But I think the thing right now that I'm feeling, quite honestly, is I'm at the point where I'm kind of exhausted to some point in my influence, because I don't know so many people. I can only talk to so many people. So really, the network has to expand. So I guess I'm asking you all, if you're into it, just start talking to people about it. And if they want information, or if you want more information, you can call me, you can email me. I can recommend resources, or we can meet and talk so that they're clear on the process. Does that answer your question?
Yes, except for one thing.
Yes.
Do you feel that you have enough support from this group tonight to move ahead, or is there someplace else you need to get that from, or some other way? I mean, I heard everybody say, move ahead and go with the process.
Yep,
How do you feel that?
Yes, is the answer to your question. I want to move ahead. I think that the support is there, certainly in this room. I'm willing to move ahead. In order to make it work, I need to leverage my own ability by asking other people to help spread the word and encourage people at least to come, at least contact people or to come to another meeting. Is that speak to?
It sounds like you need to come up with an advisory.
That could be very soon, yes.
All right, so I have a couple of ideas on ways to spread the word. And one of them involves a story that I learned when I was in education. There was a school that was having a lot of problems, and they were coming up with a new plan, and they wanted community support. And so what they did is the first person in the hairdresser's chair at the beginning of the day was one of the school board, and the last person at the end of the day. So because hairdressers see a lot of people, and so we all have hair or need shaves or things like that. So that's one way. And another way I thought is, I heard you say that you don't know a lot of people. And so if we had gatherings in our home and had you, is that something you want?
Yeah, I like that idea. Yes, I'm totally into that. I'd be available. It could be in someone's home or whatever. Yeah, organization. Yes. Yeah, thanks. No, yeah, I'll talk to my hairdresser. Yeah, talk to your hairdresser.
I think everyone's looking for a next concrete step.
Okay, that's what you want.
And that seems to be the advisory committee.
That's it, yeah.
Let me suggest
Yes.
that anyone here who's interested in being on the advisory committee, contact Will personally or by email or through the blog. And he'll put something together and we'll advise.
I'll just repeat that. Did everyone hear that in the back? Okay, yeah. So yes, if you're interested, be involved in advising this process, helping me decide what to do next, who I should talk to. You can contact me by phone, by email, you can write a comment on the blog, or you can, that's it.
Put together a workable group.
Yeah.
And run with it.
Diverse work.
A diverse workable group.
Diverse workable.
Before I run, I just wanted to mention one thing that might cause hesitation to people that might not be clear. It might be causing hesitation. Okay. I'll try not to go too far into this, but basically this focuses first on interests and not positions. So I think what typically we do is we focus on position, like I'm thinking, I want a 1 acre size swimming pool where the school used to be. That's my position. That's a position, like I already have fixed in my mind. The interest might be, I want exercise, or I want to community, I want to meet with people, or whatnot. This process, I'm not sure if that's clear, but like, this process teases that out. So we look first on what are we trying to get, like what do we want? And then how do we get what we want? Rather than what do we want to do first, without exploring what that is trying to achieve first. The beauty of that, one of the things that's great about that is it's very easy to argue about positions. Like, I don't want a swimming pool that's 1 acre on a share. Or I do. But it's much harder to get into an argument when you're saying, well, I want exercise. And that's what pops into my head. Or I want to meet people at the pool and talk to people and stuff. I mean, that's a pretty hard argument. Most everyone wants to communicate with people. So. Okay, go ahead.
Do you have a slide with your email address, your blog link, and all that, all your contact information, so I can put it in my phone?
I don't, but I can tell you right now if you...
It pops right up when you Google it.
I'm sorry?
It pops up when you Google it.
What does it mean?
Yeah, the Fort Clinton.
Oh, it does. Oh, the Fort Clinton Community Summit blog. It's probably on the blog, I think. And if it's not, I'll look at it. But right now, okay, my name is Will Hayes, Hays.
They're helping you over
You want me to
here.
type it on here?
No, they're gonna write it down for
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, so Will Hayes. Yeah, Hays. And, yeah, that's it. Okay, the phone number is, that's just my name. Yeah, sorry. The email address is the same with a Y in there. It's called Willie Hayes. So W-I-L-L-Y. Sorry. Oh, there you go. Wow. I don't know if you can read that, but you can come down and read it if you want. It's williehayes@gmail.com, 440-488-6955. And what do you think? Is it 488 or 448? That's pretty good. Yeah, I think it's 488. Sorry.
Understanding what we're trying to do here, is there, in your experience, a time frame that you would suggest we target, like identifying stakeholders within 1 month or 4 months, or so that we know that we're on track? Because not that we fall into analysis paralysis and nothing ever gets
Okay, so the question has to do with the time frame of the entire project, I think is what you're getting it right.
Yeah, I mean, there's milestones.
Yes.
I would suspect throughout the whole life cycle.
Right. Typically, a community vision thing will take 12 months. But typically, the communities are larger than what we have. So it could be that it could be shorter. That question has come to me before, and what I said is, I'm going to contact the professors at Case Western Reserve, and I'm going to ask them that question, because they've done hundreds and hundreds of these things all over the world. They facilitate it. And I'm just going to say, okay, this is our community situation, this is how big we are. I mean, a lot of them probably been here. And I'm going to say, what's a realistic time frame? I'm going to guess they're going to say, I'm guessing between 6 months and 12 months, somewhere in there is my guess. And in terms of what has happened at which time in that, until I don't know how that will play out until I know sort of the total time frame. But that's what I'm looking into that right now.
Should we wrap it up?
Wrap it up?
Okay.
Okay, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it.
I have one question before you let us depart where we're at. Next steps and what do you have?
Okay, here's my thought on next steps, and it'd be great if I could just get some feedback on that. My thought was that I've tentatively scheduled February 18th, that might be a little tight, here in the cafeteria to do a mini summit. So it's basically like a demonstration, hands-on, of a summit where we would be in one room in the cafeteria. We'd be divided up into first individual interviewing pairs, then small groups who would take that information, consolidate it, and present it to the larger group. I'm thinking 3 or 4 hours total for that. It has to be during the evening because otherwise the school charges a lot of money to use the facility. During the week, they don't. So when I think of next meeting, I thought that might be kind of cool because instead of me up here talking, you would just see how it works. So my question is, does that sound like a good idea, or should it be more like a meeting like this? A working session, yeah. Does that sound like a good idea?
Yes.
Okay, so that's my thought, and I would plan that, and I have to get with the folks in the office here to make sure that day or another would work. And we could do that more than once. I mean, that could be, we could have a couple of those. Randy. Yeah. Yeah, what's a good mix in a working session would be the same as the good mix in the full-on project, which would be as diverse as possible. So younger people, I think that's essential, and because it's in the school. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to do it in the school, because I thought they might be encouraged. Plus, they can get credit for it. I looked into that. It's not definite, but there's a possibility that they could get credit for their time here, which apparently makes a big difference to their attendance. But other than that, we would advertise it, hopefully in the weekend or whatever, and invite it. It would be open to everyone. If I had anything to say about it, it would be open to everyone, and hopefully we would get a diverse group. But maybe it would be good to actually specifically invite people so you encourage groups that might not be inclined to do it to come. Does that answer your question? Yes.
What time are you thinking about?
Were you thinking about February 18th, you said? What time? The community dinner is at the same time as church that day, too. 5 o'clock.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so it's hard to find a time that works for everybody. I figured out that. And the school only has a few days available every month in the school year, so that's why I think there was the 18th today, and a couple other days this week. That was it. That's all that was available. For this room, cafeteria is a little more open. So I'm going to get into your question. So my thought is to do it a couple times at different times, so it's available to different people. Does that make sense? And in terms of time, I don't know. I was thinking 6 to 9, but I don't know. I can't think of a really good time I don't know, I think the best way would be to do it at a couple of different ones. Joel, yeah.
That was what I was gonna suggest, was maybe do them on weekdays, maybe do a couple on weekends, rotate the hours, that way you'll get more attendance, for people that come over and show, so people that are interested in it.
So it's like a series of things at really different times of the weekend.